breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you. As we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball, as we're going to be asking him about his thoughts on things going into the trade deadline, a few teams that he's feeling bullish/bearish on, and we'll dive into the Monday card with him. And then in the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to be able to throw those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, name does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to the funds that they want and need whenever and wherever. 100% of gambling transactions get approved. You get cashback rewards as you utilize EdgeBoost. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Sunday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The top over team in all baseball is the Seattle Mariners, but they were held down by the LA Angels. They lose by a count of 4-1. Now, Cal Raleigh does get his 41st home run of the season, so he's putting himself on relatively good pace to be able to perhaps get to 63 home runs by the end of the season. But for Logan Gilbert, he does give up 4 runs over the course of his 5 innings. You had Mike Trout get his 19th home run of the season. Joe Adell went 0-4, but he had a nice home run robbery of J.P. Crawford. And for the Angels, the Professor Kyle Hendricks, actually a really good start. 2 hits allowed. One of those was the home run to Cal Raleigh. It allows a 1 run. Reed Detmers, Brock and Roll Burke, Kenley Jansen from there, all lend a scoreless setting, and Casey Lugamina, 2 scoreless settings. Jackson Cower was able to give you a scoreless setting as well. The Blue Jays entered into Sunday the top team in all baseball record-wise, but they got lambasted by the Detroit Tigers by kind of 10-4. As for Max Scherzer, honestly not a bad start here. 11 strikeouts. He gives up 3 runs in 7 innings, and he does allow a home run along the way. As going deep for the Detroit Tigers, it was home run number 10 of the season for Gleyber Torres. For Captain Jack Flaherty, he was just better. 6 scoreless innings from there. Tyler Holton, Brendan Hennessy, they combined for 2 scoreless innings. You did have 4 runs given up with a pair of outs out of the bullpen from Luke Jackson, who that's not great to say the least. Dietrich Enns, he gives you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and for Chad Green, he gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning. Justin Brule, 4 runs, 3 which were earned in a third of an inning. As for the Detroit Tigers, they were up 3-0 going into the bottom of the 8th inning. If you had the under in this game, rough beat there. 7 spot in the 8th inning, and then the Blue Jays strike for 4 in the 9th. So that was wild and crazy, and for the Yankees, it's been wild and crazy for them. No Aaron Judge, no problem. 4-3. They take down the Philadelphia Phillies as Zach Wheelan and Dylan Wheeler was not Wheelan, and he was not dealing. 4 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Tanner Banks from there. 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Matt Strom, a scoreless inning. You did have a trio bombs for the Philadelphia Phillies. All solo shots. Sid Castellanos, his 14th home run of the season. Then Otto Kemp off of Carlos Rodon, his 3rd and 4th home runs of the season. Rodon gives up 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings. Also home runs. From there, Luke Weaver, Tim Hill, Devin Williams all lend a scoreless inning, and Jonathan Loaiska, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. The Colorado Rockies just stay losing. Up to now, 78 losses, 5-1. They fall to the Baltimore Orioles. As for Colorado, Austin Gomber gets Gombered up. 4 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings, including a bomb to Tyler O'Neill. 6 home run season, and Tomoyuki Sugano gives up 1 run in 6 innings. That was a solo shot. Home run number 1 of the season, and I believe the career of Warming Benable. Hopefully I said that correctly. So he's warming up to the big league level. For there, Juan Mejia and Jeremiah Hill come in for an inning for the Rockies. Hill gives up an unearned run. Mejia, no runs allowed, and Jimmy Harrigan, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. Meanwhile, for Baltimore, Yanier Cano, Andrew Kittredge, Sir Anthony Dominguez, they all lend a scoreless inning. And for Boston, you had a 4-3 win over the LA Dodgers, as facing off against his old team, Walker Buehler, not amazing here. 5 walks, 4 hits, 3 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings, including a home run, as going deep for the LA Dodgers in this one. It was number 9 of the season for Michael Conforto, but bullpen from there had his back. Brendan Bernardino had out of the bullpen scoreless. Greg Weiser, Justin Wilson both give you a scoreless inning, and then Roland Chapman and Jordan Hicks combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Alex Bregman does take Destin May deep. It was May Day for his 13th home run season, as for Mr. May, he does give up 4 runs in 5 innings. From there, Justin Robelski, 2 scoreless innings. Jack Dreyer, a scoreless inning, but Dodgers lose this game, leaving 13 men on base. That was not great to say the least. What has been great has been betting the under in Paul Skeens starts. 6-0, the Pirates get the job done, as for the Diamondbacks, they are selling, and Zach Gallen not helping out his trade stock. 4 runs allowed in 6 innings against the poopy Pirates. He doesn't give up any home runs, as John Curtis with 2 S's. He gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. You did have Brandon Garcia come in and give you a scoreless inning, but for the Diamondbacks, nothing doing off of Skeens. 6 scoreless innings. Carmen Milodzinski, 2 scoreless innings, and Caleb Ferguson, a scoreless inning of his own. Lots of scoreless innings out there in Cincinnati. 2-1, the Redlegs get the job done against the Tampa Bay Rays as the Boz. Shane Boz, not a bad start, 2 runs allowed in 5 innings. Mason Montgomery, Mason Englert, and Ian Seymour lend a scoreless inning, and Taylor Walls, lone form of offense for the Rays in this one. 4th home run season off of Brady Singer, who did have the Rays singing the blues. 7 1/3 innings, gives up that home run. Emilio Pagano scoreless inning, and Tony Santillan, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. On Sunday Night Baseball, the Mets go on the road. They get it done against the San Francisco Giants by a count of 5-3, as Kodai Senga, not the starter he was looking for. 3 runs allowed in 5 innings. Matt Chapman gets him deep for home runs number 15 and 16 of the season, and for the Giants, it was the piecemeal game. They had Spencer Bivens as main bulk guy, give up 2 runs in 3 innings, but Matt Gage with the opener and Tristan Beck both lend a scoreless inning. Joey Lucchesi far outside the bullpen scoreless. Randy Rodriguez does give up a pair of solo home runs in his 1 1/3 innings. Juan Soto, his 25th home run season, and Ronnie Mauricio, he was able to get home run number 5 of the campaign. You also had Sean Hegele give up a run in an inning, but you did have Tyler Rogers give you an out of the bullpen scoreless, and for the Mets, the bullpen was lights out, as you had Jose Bito, Gregory Soto, newly acquired, and Edwin Diaz. I'll give you a scoreless inning, and Reed Garrett along with Brooks Raley. They all stay on the Rayleys. They both give you a combined scoreless inning. For the Rangers, they keep the Braves losing. The Braves are now 16 games below 500 as the Walker Texas Rangers get an 8-1 win, as the Rangers are still tied for your top under team in all baseball with the Royals. Both teams 42 overs, 62 unders, and 2 pushes, but this Rangers offense is coming alive, as for the Atlanta Braves, this is not what they were hoping for out of Bryce Elder. He looked elderly. He got 8 outs, and he gave up 8 runs, all of which were earned. Now, credit to the bullpen. The Dodd father, Dylan Dodd, 3 scoreless innings, and Hunter Strand, 2 1/3 innings scoreless, but for the Rangers, you had Josh Smith get jiggy with it. 9th home run season, he goes deep off of Elder, and for Jack Leiter, really good start. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Caleb Belsley, the pride of Hortonville, Wisconsin, and Cole Winn, they combined for 3 scoreless innings, and for the Atlanta Braves, just a sad and miserable year for them, to say the least, and this was sad and miserable from the St. Louis Cardinals. The Slam Diego Padres slam it down 9-2. They take down the Cardinals, as for the Pods, Stephen Kolek gives up 2 runs in 6 innings, including a home run to Alec Burleson, 13th home run season. From there, David Morgan, Wandy Peralta both give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and you're able to get 1 2/3 innings out of Ron Metanacchio out of the bullpen scoreless. And for the Padres, you did have Xander Bogaerts get his 7th home run in the campaign. That one comes off of Andre Granillo, who he gives up a run in 1 1/3 innings. John King, he was hoping to be the king, and he gave up 1 run in 2 innings, much more of a king than Michael McGreevy, who gave up 7 runs in 4 2/3 innings. So that was not great. And for the Minnesota Twins, this is not great. They're 5 games below 500, and they lose to the Washington Nationals by a count of 7-2. As for the Nats, CJ Abrams goes deep off of Cole Sands, 14th home run season. As for Sands, he had to pitch pretty much a bullpen game for the Minnesota Twins, as he goes 2 innings, he allows a run. Danny Kalum allows a run in his inning of work, as the bulk guy, Travis Adams, was not any better. He gives up 5 runs in 3 1/3 innings. Brock and Roll Stewart, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Louis Varland, Yuan Duran, they both give you a squirrel inning, and Matt Wallner does go deep off of Jake Irvin for his 12th home run season. Irvin gives up 2 runs in 7 innings, including that bomb, but Connor Pilkington and Kyle Finnegan both give you a squirrel inning, so yay verily for the Nationals, and yay verily for the A's, who they sweep the Houston Astros by a count of 7-1. They win the final game of the series. For the Astros, they get 1 run in the 9th inning off of Mr. Ben Bowden, but I knew had a really good start here from JT Ginn and Juice. 6 scoreless innings. Jack Perkins, 2 scoreless innings, and for the A's, pair of bombs off of Colton Gordon. Both came in the first inning. Miguel Andujar, 4th home run season. Shea Langoliers, Shea Bangs, his 17th home run season. For Gordon, gives up 4 runs in 5 innings. Did have Stephen Okirk give up 3 runs at his inning work. Luis Contreras, 2 scoreless innings. Caleb Ward, a scoreless inning out of the bullpen. And for the Astros, they go 1 of 12 with men in scoring position, as they started out 0 of 10 with men in scoring position prior to that ninth inning. So not a lot doing for them, not a lot doing out there in Milwaukee for the offenses, but the Brewers do get a 3-2 win over the Fish, as you did have home run number 5 of the season for Roberto Hernandez, who is starting to get hot. Marlins, who go 1 of 10 with men in scoring position. That in support of Eury Perez, who had a nice start. 6 punch-outs, 5 innings, allows 1 run. From there, you did have Ronnie Enriquez give up a run in an inning. Valentin Beloso, Anthony Bender, they both lend a scoreless inning, but Cade Gibson in the 9th inning allows a Blake Perkins RBI single to end the game. For the Brewers, they go 2 of 9 with men in scoring position, as Brandon Woodruff, solid start here, gives up that home run to Enriquez. 2 runs allowed in 6 innings, but Aaron Ashby, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, they're all able to turn a scoreless inning. And the Kansas City Royals, 42 overs, 62 unders, and 2 pushes. They take it to the Cleveland Guardians by a count of 4-1, as Joey Cantillo, he could not go very far in this one. 3 runs allowed in 4 innings. Matthew Festa did not have a fiesta. He gave up a home run to Mr. Miguel Garcia. 10th home run in the campaign, gives up that 1 solo home run in 2 innings of work. From there, Jacob Junis, Kobe Allard, both on his scoreless inning, and Gabriel Urias, lone form of offense, 7th home run of the season. That goes off of Anel Zerpa, who gives up a home run in his inning of work. Noah Cameron, 6 punch-outs and 5 scoreless innings, solid there. Hunter Harvey, Lucas Ursedge, Carlos Aceves, all able to turn a scoreless inning for a Royals team that is 2 games below 500. They're going to be interesting in the next few days, and this is very fascinating. The battle for Chicago went the way of the Cubs, 5-4 the final is. For the Cubbies, you had the main guy in Ben Brown be able to give you a good start. 5 innings, he gives up a solo home run. That was Andrew Benintendi, 12th home run season. Then Benintendi goes deep off of Ryan Brazier for his 13th home run season. Brazier gives up 3 runs in his inning of work, but Caleb Theobar, a scoreless inning. Drew Pomeranz, Daniel Palencia combined for 6 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. And for the Cubs, they did a solid job of being able to get to Sean Burke. 2 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings as the bulk guy as the opener. Grant Taylor gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. You had from there Tyler Alexander give you 4 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Mike Vasil, unearned run, give it up in his inning of work, as you had a pair of errors out there from a guy that has really been heating up in Colson Montgomery. He's hit like 3 home runs over the last 10 days, but had a pair of errors that hurt the team. And then Brandon Eisert, he was able to come in and give you a scoreless inning. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it has been very much an underwhelming season thus far this season. Unders are hitting at 52.6%, 801 unders to 721 overs. Meanwhile, if you take a look at the money line favorites, All-Star break, they have not been great. Overall for the season, hitting at 56.9%, 893 and 677 on the money line. But look at the last 7 days. Underdogs are at 51 and 43 on the money line. Underdogs are hitting at 54.3%. And the under rate, well, it's very underwhelming. 51 unders at 35 overs with a few pushes along the way. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Sunday. Now let's take a look at what we're getting on Monday and at the trade deadline with one of our good friends, Dylan Rockford of the Sports Gambling Podcast. I'll work next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as Dylan Rockford does such a tremendous job over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I know that he is doing a great job with regards to the baseball side of things, but additionally, he does a great job with the Dream Wager and X Kick Picks, where he does a great job taking a look at the fight game, as that has been hot and heavy this summer as well. Dylan, truly a 5-tool player that you're able to follow him on Twitter/X at Rock with 2Ks, the number 24 altogether. And Dylan, it's always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Greg. Always good to be with you.
Always great to have you aboard, Dylan. And first things first, how do you take a look at the next few days in Major League Baseball? We're recording this Sunday evening, so it feels like it's sort of the calm before the storm, and haven't seen a lot of like quantum moves made on Sunday or anything like that. But as we know, it feels like these are going to come in hot and heavy, and it feels like one of those years where these moves are going to be coming in very much at the last minute.
Yeah, within the next 48 hours to 72, I think we're going to really start to see some movement here with some teams. I know they got some infielders, but Mike Rosario, I'm not a big fan of. His defensive metrics are not good, and they haven't been good defensively either. So we'll see how that works out. I think White Sox think they're going to trade for Mark Vientos and the Mets for Luis Roberts. That sounds like it. Phillies, they want to add one high-end leverage reliever. we'll see if Mitch Keller is expected to be traded. I feel like he'll have one more start. Sandy Alcantara as well. As a Met fan, I really wanted Jarren Duran, but it doesn't seem like the Red Sox have any plans either. We see the Diamondbacks, they're sellers. They're literally selling everyone at this point. Braves, they're sellers as well. I think they'll be sellers. I heard reports that Marcelo Zuno, he's expected to be traded as well. So we'll see. As a Met fan, I had three guys in mind. Yurino Suarez of the Diamondbacks, Luis Roberts. I know he's not having a good season, but I think the upside is there with him, and it's a nice buy low situation. And I think the Mets need to get one more reliever type guy. I was thinking of more of like a Fairbanks from the Tampa Bay Rays. I think that would be a nice reliever spot for the Mets. But I know a lot of my friends and guys in the media are like, oh, the Mets are good. They're fine. We're just where they are. They are on a 6-game winning streak. We'll see what happens here Sunday night. But I don't know. I think we need a center fielder piece. I think we need one more bullpen piece as well. So we'll see.
Yep, it is going to be very interesting to see what happens there. And with the other New York team, you were mentioning the Yankees. It's going to be very interesting to see what they do now that they've got Aaron Judge on the injured list. Now, I don't think that injury is going to be something that keeps him out the entire year or anything like that. It doesn't sound overly severe, but I'm so glad that you mentioned that they made a few moves, because I think that they're the team that I really put a star around as to what they're going to be doing at the trade deadline, because I feel like they could also use some bullpen help.
Yeah, they could definitely use some bullpen help. Fielding, I thought, was an issue because the shortstop has not been good. I don't think he's made a lot of errors. So we'll see. Now, because of Judge's injury, Giancarlo Stanton, he's going to have to play a little outfield as well. So we'll see. I don't think he'll be out.
And that dude is so slow.
A shot in the gap. We'll see how fast he could track it, but we'll see how that ends up going. But like you said, I don't think he's expected to miss a ton of time, but you really don't want to mess around with Judge, especially financially, of what you invested into him.
It is as if Giancarlo Stanton is running with a John Deere tractor trailer on his back. It is so hilarious watching him. The arms are pumping and the legs just are not moving. So that is always some good, clean family fun there, as Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I think that was interesting that you mentioned Luis Robert, and there's a few other guys out there that have really struggled this year. Like, we're going to see if Sandy Alcantara is moved at the trade deadline, Zach Gallen. What sort of a change of scenery do you think could be had for some of these guys like Robert, Gallen, Alcantara, if they do get moved at the deadline? Because they're guys that we know are guys that could be all-stars at their peak, but just have really had bad years this year.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned Luis Robert. I think two things could be true at once. I think maybe he's just on the White Sox and he doesn't care that he's been doing that bad. But, I think it's a change of scenery. If you get surrounding pieces around him, for example, like a New York Mets squad, maybe he can, because there is talent there. I don't think he's bad. I think if there is talent around him, maybe he could step up, maybe finish with 15, 20 home runs. He's only batting 204. I mean, the talent is there. He's kind of a guy that's just been floating around, but he's on such a bad team. I don't think he cares sometimes. That's the problem, too. Zach Gallen, you mentioned, man, what a bad year it's been for the Diamondbacks, who I was kind of high on coming this season. But I don't know, maybe he's like a 2 or 3, maybe to like a Phillies team. I don't know. I feel like just change of scenery might be good for him as well, but he's been having a really bad year.
Yep, absolutely. And I do think that it's going to be so fascinating to take a look at to see which team is going to be buying in on him and trying to resurrect his season, to say the least. And we do have quite a bit of intrigue on Monday. As you mentioned, Mitch Keller might be one of those guys that get moved at the trade deadline. And for Mitch Keller, he's going to be making the start on Monday. I don't think that he's going to be moved before this, but it's going to be he going up against the young gun and Carson Weisenhunt for the Giants. Right now, I'm seeing a total of 8, and the Giants at like a minus 122. And Giants are going to be coming off of Sunday Night Baseball, and we're recording this before Sunday Night Baseball. But how do you take a look at this sort of spot with a guy in Keller who's been a solid pitcher, but as we know, he's backed up by an offense that has been absolutely terrible this year?
Yeah, it's been terrible, but they have been playing better as of late, hitting the ball. I mean, yes, they just swept the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are sellers, but they just had a nice series against the Detroit Tigers as well. My worry with the Pirates in this situation is how bad they are on the road. 13-37 straight up. It is bad. And the Giants, they're good at home. But, by the way, the Giants, they make you into believers every year. They're like, hey, we're going to be good under Buster Posey. And then they do stuff like this. Sunday scaries, I don't really want to back them. Mitch Keller, they're probably going to be his last start for Pittsburgh here. 4-10. But numbers don't really show it. I think he has been actually having a pretty good season, 3.53 ERA. My numbers only made the Giants a minus 130 favorite. I just can't back them right now. Watching, as a Met fan, watching them in this series, they make defensive errors as well. I don't trust their bullpen either. So I would take Pittsburgh maybe in the first 5 plus a half, because I do think Mitch Keller will be able to keep them in the game.
Yep, and I do think that that's a good way of being able to look at it because, man, with this Pittsburgh Pirates team, I think that they could get a good start out of Mitch Keller, but I mean, even going up against a young gun and Weisenhunt, are they going to be able to produce more than 2 runs? I think is actually a valid question. As joining me on the show, we've got Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and I think that this game is just so hilarious. The Braves are now 16 games below 500, which, I mean, if you had that on your bingo card, congratulations to you, but now they have to go up against 45-year-old Rich Hill and the Royals, and they're minus 167 road favorites. I don't know what to make out of this game because Spencer Strider has been an incredible pitcher, but the Atlanta Braves are finding ways to just disappoint. And for Rich Hill, again, he's 45 years old, and, well, he's very, very old.
Yeah, I don't care who's pitching for the Braves. They should not be a minus 170. I only made him a minus 145 favorite, and even then I thought that was pretty generous of my model. So I want no parts of the Braves. They're just coasting at this point. They don't care. They are sellers. They want no part of the rest of the season, and they're kind of playing like it as well. They got blown out by the Rangers, who I think it's a nice buy spot here for the Rangers. They might make the playoffs as well, so I'm high on the Rangers right now. But they got blown out again. They got swept by the Rangers. They don't look good. And Rich Hill, I mean, it's only his second start, but I think he will look good here. And, the Braves, they're not trying. They're not a good hitting team in general. They've lost 5 games in a row. Their bullpen stinks, and they don't hit lefties well. So, yeah, it has to be Royals or pass for me. Plus 150 is an insane price for the Royals at home.
And this total of 9.5 makes no sense because I do not doubt the fact that the Atlanta Braves might not get the job done here, but the Royals are averaging 3 runs per game at home. Spencer Strider has been fine for the Braves. The Braves are not struggling because of Spencer Strider. 9.5 just seems way too high.
100%. My total came out to 8.5, and I thought that was kind of generous. So I'd take the under as well. I know the second half of the season for the Royals, they've been better offensively, but they're predominantly an under team as well, especially at home. 33-19 towards the under. So I worry about the bullpen, though, for the Braves, just because we have seen a lot of overs for them. Last 4 or 5 games have gone over this total. So that's what I worry about. Maybe first 5 under, but no, I agree. I think the total is extremely high.
Yep, absolutely. And then this team, as we know, is a bunch of sellers. That'd be the Baltimore Orioles. They throw out their Zach Eflin against Chris Bassett. And for the Blue Jays, they've got the best record out there in the American League, and they're a minus 120 favorite against an Orioles team that has just really struggled. Total of 9.5. I don't know how you take a look at this game, but it just feels like the Blue Jays have really been getting dogged the last month. You've been able to find some really nice prices on them, and I think that this is still a relatively good price on them.
100%. Every time I see Zach Eflin announced starter, I hear you in the back of my head, Eflin awful.
Yes.
Because he is Eflin awful. I cannot back him in. And for whatever reason, I'm glad you brought up the Blue Jays being mispriced, because for whatever reason, the market just does not respect them. I'm fine with that because we continue to get amazing prices. On Saturday, I don't know if you caught it, probably did, but I got a plus 168 against Tigers, and I know Skubal was on the mound, but that bullpen blew
I took
that
one
game.
too. Yep.
So I don't know. I got a minus 112. I see minus 118, so shop around. That's insane. I get Bassett isn't the same pitcher on the road that he is at home, but he's already beat this Oriole team earlier in the season. He went 6 innings, only gave up 1 run, and this is Eflin's only second start. He missed a month. Getting a red-hot Blue Jay team, I know they lost here on Sunday, but it was bound to happen. I just don't think this is the best situation here for the Orioles. The Blue Jays, this is a team that just dig deep. They find ways to win. And Bassett, even if he does an okay start, he's backed up by a top 10 bullpen. They're over 500 on the road. I think they'll be just fine. I made them a minus 135 favorite. I love the Blue Jays here on the road.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I felt like that was one that was very glaring, to say the least. And then this might be the game of the night, and it's pretty much a pick-em. Brewers versus the Cubs. Jacob Mizorowski, Matthew Boyd, total between 7.5 and 8. How do you take a look at this rather pick-em game? Because I did set the Brewers as a very slight favorite, though. I do have to be mindful that this Brewers team, for some reason, they're averaging 4.1 runs per game at home compared to 5.4 away from home, and that's been one of the most just head-scratching things I've seen all season.
Yeah, usually teams, they average more runs at home than they do on the
And
road.
it's not like American Family Field is some sort of pitcher's ballpark or something.
100%. You can even name the Seattle Mariners as well. This is another team that just rakes on the road. But I agree. I think the wrong team is favored. My numbers made the Brewers are minus 130 favorite. I think that's a little steep. I didn't think they were going to be that big. But minus 104, I see him as a short dog at home. I know they've cooled off a little here, but I still think they're better than the Cubbies here. The Wizardowski's only given up 1 run at home this season. Brewers are 3-0 straight up at home. I know it's a small sample size. And on the other side, I think Matthew Boyd has been one of the biggest surprises here in the NL. He's one of the best pitchers as well. I'm going to bet the Brewers don't get shut out because Matthew Boyd has been able to shut out his last 4 opponents. I don't think that's the case here with the Brewers. They're great against left-handed pitchers. Not saying the Brewers are going to get destroyed by the Cubs or by any means, but I do think they'll be able to score some runs here. So it should be the pitching matchup of the night. I'm going to trust the rookie here at home. I think they should be a little bigger of a favorite. Give me the Brewers here at home.
Yep, no question about it. And is there anything else that's really standing out to you on the board for this Monday? As we've actually got all 3 teams in action on Monday. You don't see that very often and should have some, shall we say, interesting games, to say the least.
Yeah, one game that really caught my eye, and I know it's not popping off the page, but Philadelphia Phillies and Chicago White Sox. You got Christopher Sanchez going against Davis Martin. I saw the opening line total open up at 9. I see 8.5s out there. That is extremely high for these two pitchers. My total came out to 7.6. Maybe that's a little too low, but we got 2 good pitchers here in Sanchez and Davis Martin. Sanchez hasn't given up more than 2 runs in over 2 months. And he's also been involved in a lot of low-scoring games. The past 8 games he started have gone under this total. Davis Martin, he hasn't looked bad either, especially being on a really bad team. His last 7 starts have gone under this total as well. I know both offenses have looked better as of late, but I really don't expect a ton of runs in this matchup. So first 5 under, full game under. Check the wins. It is in Chicago, but I do like the under.
Yep, I'm right there with you. Christopher Sanchez has been absolutely magnificent. Davis Martin pitching to a little bit of contact, but for the Phillies, not quite generating the same amount of offense away from him rather than at home. But whether he's at home, whether he's on the road, this man always generates great content, and this man always gets the job done. That'd be you, Dylan. You do great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, so love to get people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people are able to follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, we're locked and loaded at the MLB Gambling Podcast 6 days. We do Sundays as well now. So, yeah, we're breaking down every game just like yourself, Greg. So, yeah, you guys can follow me and my work over there. You can hit me on Twitter or X at Rock with 2Ks24. And we are locked and loaded. And, Greg, I will die on this hill. We need more day baseball, especially in these dog days of summer until football.
Oh, I am right there with you. We certainly do need some day baseball. I mean, shout out to the Brewers for giving us a day game on Friday, but we have none of that on Monday. I do not believe we have any of that on Tuesday, so shame on you, Major League Baseball, but good on Dylan for giving us some great insight. So big thanks to Dylan for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the Beast Family Podcast. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Dylan Rockford, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Take a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights, and he did so once again today. So a big thanks to Dylan for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go the National League games first, then the American League games, and the Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 951, 952 on the betting board. The LA Dodgers are on the road facing off against the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati, who's on to Chase Burns getting the start for them, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto is on the bump for the Dodgers. The Dodgers are anywhere between minus 162 to minus 172 favorites. Plus 140 to plus 150 is that number on Cincinnati. 9 is the total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And For the Dodgers, I did set them at a minus 146 on the money line. I'm going to take this plus 150 with the Reds. Reds have won 10 out of their last 14 games. They're really starting to surge, and for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, it's been a little bit more suspect for him because his walk numbers have really been driven up this year. When he was out there last year for this team, he was closer to about 2 walks per 9 innings, and all of a sudden that has spiked to in the neighborhood about 3 walks per 9 innings. So again, 10.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. Keep them all in the yard. Give it up 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. 2.55 ERA with a 3.08 fielding independent, but Sal give it up at least 3 runs in 2 out of his last 3 starts. And I will say he was hurt by errors in his last start against the Minnesota Twins, but he is also backed up by a bullpen that has been very much less than savory for the LA Dodgers. This bullpen has been really, really rough to say the least. As right now for the LA Dodgers, 24th in the big leagues with a 4.33 ERA. They have been very much hurt by the injury bug. Blake Trinan, along with Michael Kopech, being out has been really hurting this team. But additionally, Jack Dreher is right now one of your better relievers. He's been giving you a sub 350 ERA. Alex Vesey has been relatively solid for this team as well. But Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott, both posting an ERA above a 350 has been less than tremendous. You've had Ben Casparis go straight down the toilet bowl for this team. They did use Justin Robelski to be able to save some of that bullpen yesterday, so that helps them out. Now for the Dodgers, as we know, this is a Death Star lineup that has been very good all season long, top 3 in terms of runs per game. They were dealing with Mookie Betts being out for a little bit of time, and even with him back, Betts has not been the world's greatest this year, but Shohei Ohtani, 37 home runs, 380 on base. He has been amazing. Teoscar Hernandez continues to supply you with 15 home runs. His on-base percentage is not amazing, but you know what? Andy Paz, he's supplying 18 to 19 home runs. He's hitting at 280. You could use a little bit more of the likes of Tommy Edman along with Michael Conforto, but still, this is a team that other than those 2 guys, you pretty much have 7 really, really good bats in that lineup. And for the Cincinnati Reds, they've just been sort of piecemealing it together. I think that Austin DeSay's kid coming back has been very impactful for the Cincinnati Reds team, but additionally, you've been able to get really good production out of just guys that are able to get on base, like a TJ Friedel at a 370 on base, 355 on base for Gavin Lux. Hayes, who I was mentioned before, hitting at 280 with 10 home runs and 210 at bats. So, like what I'm seeing there, Ellie De La Cruz is obviously the headliner with 18 home runs, 360 on base, but you've got a lot of guys that they move the line. They've done a good job with their righty-lefty platoon splits, and Nelvali Marte coming back hitting at 280 has been impactful. And for the Reds, it's not an amazing bullpen, but it's right around about league average. Emilio Pagan gives up too many home runs for my liking, but if you look at the overall ERA, it's not too bad. He's below A3 along Tony Santillan, Taylor Rogers. So these guys have been able to do a relatively solid job. I've seen Lyon Richardson fall down the toilet bowl a little bit, but I do think that for Chase Burns, he's going to be able to find it a little bit more here, as the swing and miss stuff is obviously there with up 14.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The control is not, as he's been giving up over 4.5 walks per 9 innings, and he does give up the deep ball a little bit. 4 home runs given up in 21 2/3 innings across his 5 starts. Had really good stuff when he was over at Wake Forest and at the college level. I do think that he finds it a little bit more here. I think that he's going to be able to give you 5 solid innings against the Dodgers team that has been slumping a little bit. So at a plus 150 or greater, I'm willing to take a shot on the Reds on the money line, and maybe I told an 8.8. So here at the 9, I like the under. 953, 954 on the card. The Cubs are on the road against the Milwaukee Brewers, as Jacob Mizorowski is on the bump for the Crew, and Matthew Boyd goes for the Cubs. The Cubs do find themselves in a rather pick'em game. Both teams are in between a minus 104 to a minus 110, and the last game is between 7.5 and 8. On the 7.5, over is minus 125. The under is plus 105, and on the 8, the under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And with Matthew Boyd, I did set the Cubs and he as a plus 116 underdog. I'm going to be willing to back the Miz, as for Jacob Mizorowski, it has been absolutely tremendous what we've seen out of him. I know that there was a lot of outrage that he made the All-Star game and everything like that, but he performed well out there, and just overall, he has been a very steady, rock-solid guy in terms of being able to get those swings and misses. 12.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. Control is a little bit of an issue. He's over 3.5 walks per 9 innings, so that limits how deep he's able to go into games, as he's went 5 innings or fewer in 3 out of his last 4 starts. But this guy has been very rock solid, and I love what I'm seeing out of him. And then additionally, for the Milwaukee Brewers, this is a bullpen that has been very good recently, as since June 1st, the Milwaukee Brewers are number 3 in terms of bullpen ERA. Abner Uribe, along with Nick Mears, Trevor McGill, these guys give you a sub 325 ERA, along with Aaron Ashby. They've been able to step up up and do a really good job after it was a little bit of a disaster zone for the bullpen to begin the season. And for the Brewers, it's a really interesting split with their offense. They're averaging about 4.1 runs per game at home compared to 5.4 away from home. I'm not quite sure how to slice that, but even with Sal Frelick being out of the lineup, you just still have so many guys that are giving you in the neighborhood of, I'm going to call it about a 340 to I could go a little bit further down, the 330 to a 350 on base. Caleb Durbin, Bryce Terang, William Contreras, Christian Yelich, even throw in there Rhys Hoskins, who's been in and out of the lineup. All these guys are doing a solid job moving the line. Now for Yelich, stuck on 19 home runs, and the Brewers are a bottom 7 team in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis. It's not as if they're mashing a whole bunch of homers or anything like that, but they just find a way to get on base. 4 different guys, with Frelick currently dealing with a little bit of an injury, Bryce Terang, Jackson Trio, Christian Yelich, all being able to give you at least 14 stolen bases. And on the other side, you've got a Chicago Cubs team that has been a top 2 team with regards to runs per game. Just so many guys, 1 through 9, they're able to provide for the team. Even Carson Kelly, they will give you like a 370 on base. He's been giving you a home run every about 13 or so at bats. Michael Busch at 360 on base with 20 plus home runs. Kyle Tucker, 18 home runs, 380 on base. You've been able to get good production out of Peter Armstrong and Seiya Suzuki. Both of these guys have been able to pound out the deep ball with at least 26 home runs apiece. Nico Horner moves the line, and for the Cubs, this is a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, I do think that there's going to be continuing to be a little bit of regression with these, I'm going to call them overperformers, because you've got the likes of Caleb Thielbar, Drew Pomeranz, Daniel Palencia, Ryan Brazier, all guys give you a sub 225 ERA. Chris Flexen and Brad Keller are starting to shoot up, but they're still at a 3 ERA or better as well. But that said, I do think that for the Brewers, they do a nice job finding a way to be able to get the job done here behind the Miz, and I do think that Matthew Boyd continues to give you really good starts. For Boyd, he's just been as steady as they come. He's giving up only about 2 walks per 9 innings, 0.8 home runs per 9. He's got a 2.20 ERA. Fielding independent is a little bit higher than that, as he's not getting a ton of swings and misses, 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I think that this is going to be a well-pitched game. Personally, I would rather take an 8 under rather than a 7.5 over, so looking at that under, and for the Brewers, willing to lay up to a minus 118 on the money line, 955, 956 on the card. The Miami Marlins are on the road against the St. Louis Cardinals. Andre 3000 Palante is on the bump for St. Louis, and Edward Cabrera is on the bump for Miami. And Miami does find themselves as between even money to plus 107 underdogs. Minus 117 to minus 123 is that number on St. Louis, and 8 to 8.5 is the total on the 8. The over is minus 115 and the under is minus 105 on the 8.5. The under is minus 120 and the over is even. And when it comes to the St. Louis Cardinals, I did set them at a minus 104. So being able to get this plus money on Miami, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line, as Edward Cabrera has really been able to rise up for this bunch. For Edward Cabrera, he's always had really good stuff. He just has always had rough command. He's down to about 3.1 walks per 9 innings. He's giving up less than a home run per 9 with his 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. He's been steady with the strikeouts, either 4, 5, or 6 strikeouts in each out of his last 5 starts. So he's been in that 5 to 6 range. So he's been able to do a nice job just honing in and being consistent, which has been big for him, because he's had like 1 or 2 starts in his career where he's been magnificent and then he goes straight down the toilet bowl. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, this is not some team that's really matching home runs. They're in the bottom 8 of the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis. Wilson Contreras is leading the way with 14 home runs, and then you've got a trio of guys, Nolan Arenado, Larson Nootbaar, and Alec Burleson, who have been able to give you between 10 and 13 home runs this season, though you've got Nootbaar dealing with a little bit of an injury. Wasn't really getting on base either, and you've had Jordan Walker, Victor Scott, these young guys, both hitting in that neighborhood of about a 230. I will say for Scott, 26 stolen bases, and you have Brendan Donovan, along with Alec Burleson, both hitting in that neighborhood about a 285 to 290, so that's been pretty solid for this unit, and getting back Ivan Herrera is going to be able to help them out, but I do have some question marks with that lineup. And for the Cardinals, they've been about a league average team in terms of their bullpen, as you've got Ryan Elsley, who had a lot of blown saves towards the beginning part of the season. He's been able to round back in the form, as he, Phil Matone, Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien, Andre Granillo, these guys have all been able to give you a 3 ERA or better for the campaign. If you take a look at things, ever since June 1st, St. Louis is number 7 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, so that's something think that's very encouraging for them. But you also do have on the flip side a bullpen in the Miami Marlins who has really been able to rise up. They're number 5 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA since June 1st. They did have to use up a few bullpen pieces yesterday, but you've had the likes of a Ronnie Enriquez, Tyler Phillips, be able to give you a sub 350 ERA. You've had some good production out of Anthony Bender out of the bullpen, and for the Miami Marlins, it's a really interesting home and road split for them because this team is in the bottom 5 in all of baseball in terms of home runs out of per at-bat basis, but they're getting their offense going on the road. They're averaging 3.66 runs per game at home, a little bit over 4.9 runs per game away from home, as you've had Kyle Stowers supply over 20 home runs and nearly a 370 on base. Augustin Ramirez, he's at 14 home runs. He's been a relatively solid bat. He's not hitting for the world's greatest amount of average, but that's why you've got Xavier Edwards at the top of the fold, hitting darn near 300, 363 on base. He swipes some bags. I love what he's able to bring to the table. And then you've had Otto Lopez be able to provide a 320 on base, 11 home runs. You've got just guys in general moving the line, even though Dane Myers is starting to regress a little bit. He and Liam Hicks hitting between about a 259 to a 270, with Hicks being able to give you as well about a 360 on base. And for Andre Palante, just not a lot of faith in him because he's not able to give you any sort of deception. He's actually worked on his walks a little bit this season, but he's giving up a little bit more of the deep ball than he has in the past as well. That just happens when you give up a lot of contact. 5.9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's allowing 1 home run, 2.9 walks per 9, 491 ERA compared to a 444 fielding dependent, but it's how allowed at least 5 runs at each out of his last 3 starts. I do think that the Marlins get to him, but I think that Cabrera gives you a good start. I do think that there's a little bit of positivity for Palante, made by total in 80.3, so I'm going to be diving in on the 8.5 under, and I do like Miami on plus money on the money line. 957, 958 on the card. The Mets are on the road against the San Diego Padres. Dylan Cease goes for the Pods. One Frankie Montas goes for the Mets. Mets do find themselves as between plus 112 to plus 118 underdogs, between minus 128 to a minus 136 is that number on San Diego, and 8 is the total. The over is minus 115 and the under is minus 105. And for Dylan Cease and the San Diego Padres, I set them at a minus 149 on the money line, so I'm going to be willing to lay this number. And for the San Diego Padres, it has been a very interesting year for their offense, as for the San Diego Padres, they're actually hitting much better at home rather than on the road, which you would not expect because when it comes to Petco Park, it's one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball. For the Pods, they're averaging just over 3.8 runs per game away from home compared to about 4.2 runs per game at home. And for Dylan Cease, I think that this guy is doing for a lot of positivity as he's rocking a 4.59 ERA. His fielding dependent is a full-point lawyer. He's getting 11.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.3 walks per 9. You'd like to see that go downward a little bit, but he's also given up at least 3 runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and he is backed up by a bullpen that does rank in the top 2 in all baseball in terms of bullpen ERA. You did have Robert Suarez blow a lot of saves in the month of June into early July, but he seems to be rounding back into form. And then you've got the likes of Jeremiah Estrada, Jason Adam, David Morgan, Audrey Motojon, who have all been able to give you a sub 275 ERA. For the Padres, it's just been a case where they're not getting a lot of power. They're in the bottom 4 in the big leagues in terms of home runs out of per at-bat basis. Gavin Sheets has supplied 14 bombs. He's hitting about a 250. Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., both above a 360 on base. A combined 36 home runs between those 2 guys, and other than that, it's not much. Jake Cronenworth gives you about a 346 on base, 8 home runs. You've had Xander Bogaerts hit a little bit better recently for average, but only about 7 home runs thus far this season. The entirety of the catcher spot is a nightmare for the team, and they're banking on Jason Hayward giving them something, and he had to be DFA'd, so that was not great. And for the Mets, it's a top-heavy lineup for them as well. Mark Vientos is starting to give you a little bit of something, but also keep in mind that the Mets did have to play on Sunday Night Baseball. They have to travel and play this game, albeit going from San Francisco to San Diego, not necessarily the world's worst travel, but I mean, it's still a top-heavy lineup. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, Juan Soto, all between 19 and 24 home runs thus far this season, lying between about a 252 to a 269, and everyone other than Soto are relatively solid with Gertzer on base. Soto, 387 on base, Nimmo and Lindor between about a 320 to a 330, and Alonso's up to a 360, but then you got towards the bottom of the fold, Tyrone Taylor, who I mentioned before, in Vientos, the entirety of the catcher spot, hitting a 230 or lower. Shout out to Jeff McNeil. He's been able to provide about a 350 on base when he's been out there, so he's been pretty rock solid. And for the Mets, this is a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA since June 1st, but getting back Jose Buto off the injured list should be able to help them out a little bit. You've been able to get some good production whenever Jose Castillo's been out there, but they sent him back down to the minor league level, and I don't know why, but you do have Reed Garrett, Chris Savinsky, obviously your closer in Edwin Diaz, supplying sub-3 ERA, but these long guys, like an Oscar Barzoba is up to about a 370 ERA. Brandon Waddell has not been able to get the job job done. So it's an interesting circumstance, especially with Frankie Montas, and how awful he has been since coming back for this team. As for one Mr. Frankie Montas, he is right now supplying the team with an ERA that is hovering in that neighborhood of about a 4.62. Fielding independence right on par with that, giving up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, only about 8 punch-outs per 9. So do think that the Padres get to him and get the job done. Maybe I told an 8.6, so I like the over to go along with the Pods on the money line. 959, 960 on the card. The Pittsburgh Pirates are on the road against the San Francisco Giants. Carson Weisenhunt is on the bump for the Giants for his MLB debut, and Mitch Keller goes for the Buccos, and the Pirates are finding themselves as slim underdogs between plus 103 to a plus 113, minus 117 to minus 125, that number on San Francisco. 8 to 7.5 is the total on the 7.5, over is minus 120, and the under is even on the 8. The under is minus 120, and the over is even, and talk about a soft landing spot for our good friend Carson Weisenhunt to be able to make his MLB debut as he gets to go up against a Pittsburgh Pirates team that's currently dead last in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. So that's absolutely delightful for a guy in Weisenhunt that, throughout his career at the minor league level, has been a good swing and miss guy. This year, though, 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's actually been halfway decent for Sacramento. 4.42 ERA in Sacramento, which, if you guys know how the Athletics have been playing in Sacramento this year, you know how bad that's been. That's actually halfway decent. He's giving up 1 home run per 9 innings, so he's been able to do a nice job of just being able to hold down the fort in general. And at his disposal, he does have a Giants team that's in the top 3 in the big leagues in terms of bullpenning right now. You've got a Giants team that's also coming off of Sunday Night Baseball, so that's going to leave them a little bit groggy, and they had to utilize essentially a bullpen game yesterday, so it's a little bit less than savory to say the least, but that's it for the San Francisco Giants. These guys have gone out there and done a relatively solid job for this team, as you've got the likes of Joey Lucchesi, Randy Rodriguez, Tyler Rogers, along with Eric Miller, all supplying a sub-3 ERA. Now Miller lands on the injured list, and Camilo Duvall has been a little bit more suspect recently, but Ryan Walker appears to be rounding into form a little bit, and the big issue that you've got right now for the San Francisco Giants, this has been an offense that has been quite powerless thus far this season. They obviously play in one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball, and that's why they are second worst in all of the National League in terms of runs per game at home, with about 3.8 runs per contest. Rafael Devers seems to be finding it a little bit more, but he still has only had 4 home runs in his first about 33 games with the ball team, hitting about a 244. Eloy Ramos, along with Willie Adames, Mikey Yastrzemski, these guys have been able to do a solid job in terms of finding way on base, moving the line for all 3 of these guys, at least a 320 on base. And for Adames, he's giving you 15 home runs. He's hit 8 home runs in his last 32 games, so that's all. Matt Chapman, 350 on base, 14 home runs, but the entire catcher spot has been rough. Tyler Fitzgerald has been hitting about a 230. Casey Schmidt has been in the lineup all season long. Jungle Lee has regressed, so you do have some issues there. And for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you have an issue where this team has no sort of power whatsoever. 3 guys on the roster with at least 4 home runs this year. It is July 28th, ladies and gentlemen. Oneil Cruz, Andrew McCutchen, Brian Reynolds are those guys that have been able to hit the bombs. And for Oneil Cruz, he's hitting a 221, and he's full of a cavalcade of different guys hitting a 225 or lower. It's he, along with Henry Davis, Jared Trollo, Alexander Canario, giving just a big giant nothing burger. Tommy Pham has actually picked it up a little bit, but this is just an atrocious lineup. And then for the bullpen, the Pirates have been able to pick it up a little bit. David Benar is no longer pooping the Benar. He's been able to give you a sub 250 ERA. He's actually been really good there. And then you've got the likes of Bryson Ashcraft, Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana, also give you below a 250 ERA as well. So I do think that this is going to be a relatively well-pitched game. I semi-total 7.8, so here at the 8, I'm willing to take a shot on the under, but I just don't trust in this Pirates offense, and I also don't trust in Mitch Keller on the road. For Mitch Keller, throughout his career, posting up about a 4.14 ERA at home, closer to about a 5 ERA on the road. For Keller, credit to him, he's giving up about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings this year, but he's pitching to a lot of contact, getting only about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings overall, 3.53 ERA. And if you look at this season and this season alone, he's actually been pretty rock solid on the road with a 2.90 ERA. So in on the under, and with the Giants, I'm willing to lay up to a minus 132 on the money line. 961, 962 on the betting board. It is the Toronto Blue Jays, and they're on the road. They're facing off against the Baltimore Orioles. Zach Eflin hopes to not be Eflin awful for Baltimore, and Chris Bassett as the hook, line, and sinker for Toronto. And Toronto is a favorite of anywhere between minus 117 to a minus 125, and between even money to plus 113 is that number on Baltimore. And 9.5 is the total. The under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And with Toronto, I did set them on the money line here at a minus 135, so I'm going to be willing to lay it. For Baltimore, Baltimore, they've already sold away a few pieces here at the trade deadline. Granted, Gregory Soto is not necessarily too much of a missing piece, but still, with the Orioles, it's just been so suspect for them all season long. The offense has been a whole heck of a lot better when they've been at home rather than away from home. They're averaging about 3.6 runs per game away from home compared to about 4.9 runs per game at home, but I do think that Chris Bassett is going to be able to go out there and give you a good performance. Bassett has done a really good job in terms of just simply not beating himself. For Bassett, the command has been relatively solid as he's given the team about 1.2 home runs and 2.2 walks allowed per 9 innings, has a 3.88 ERA but closer to a 3.84 fielding opponent, and has been a rounded to good form. He's given up a combined 700 runs over the course of his last 5 appearances. One of them was only a 1-inning release and against the A's. That was very interesting to say the least, but I like what Bassett has been able to show this far this season. And for Zach Eflin, well, he's been pretty Eflin awful this season as he does a great job in terms of command. He's not walking guys. He's given up 1.6 walks per 9 innings, but 2.1 home runs allowed per 9 innings with 6.3 punchouts per 9. That is really not a lot of deception. 5.78 ERA, 5.42 fielding penalties. A lot of these 4 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. He only made a 1 inning in that start against the Tampa Bay Rays. So, it has been all sorts of a disaster zone right now for Zach Eflin. He's just recently come off the injured list. Now, for the Orioles, you have to think that most of these pieces are going to be out there. They might lose 1 or 2 of these guys moving forward, but Gunnar Henderson or Ramon Laureano have been able to give you a double-figure amount of homers. Both of these guys hitting above a 275. Jordan Westburg has been really good since coming off the injured list as well. For Westburg, he's overall for the season been able to give you 11 home runs, but you look at the last 30 days for Mr. Jordan Westburg, and he's been able to give you 4 bombs and 69 at-bats, hitting above a 300, so he's been able to give you some relatively good offense there, but having Adley Rutschman on the injured list has been earning them, though Andrew Jackson has actually risen up and has been able to give the team a little bit of something, but Cedric Mullins, he might be moved by the time of this game, but he's giving you 13 home runs, but he's also hitting at 217, so it's been a hit-or-miss offense, to say the least, and for the Orioles, this is just a disaster zone of a bullpen as, it was looking like they were probably going to move Gregory Soto, but right now he's dealing with injury, and that's the main relief piece that you're able to rely upon as you've got these guys like Grant Wolfram, Yennier Cano, when he's been out there, Gregory Soto, Andrew Kittredge, these guys posting up a north of 3.65 ERA. Cade Stout is a guy that they're probably going to be going to a little bit more from the minor leagues, and for the Blue Jays, this has been a top 8 team in terms of their bullpen areas. You've got the Killer Bees, Braden Fisher, along with Brandon Little, who have been able to come up very big for this bullpen. Additionally, Uriel Rodriguez has been a good multi-inning guy who's been able to post up a 2.25 ERA. Jeff Hoffman has been a little bit of a, shall we say, a disappointment along Chad Green, both of these guys over a 4.50 ERA. And for the Blue Jays, be mindful that this has been a unit that has not been supplying the same amount of offense away from home rather than at home. They lead the American League in runs per game when they're away from home with about 5.3 runs per game compared to about 4.1 runs per game when they're away from home. So that's a bit of an issue, but still, you've had this team really come alive with George Springer supplying 18 home runs at above a 380 on base. Don't call his name Alejandro Kirk. He, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, Ernie Clement, owing at least a 278 for this unit. Bichette and Guerrero between 13 and 14 home runs apiece. For Guerrero, also nearly a 400 on base. And then you've had Addison Barger give you 14 home runs, hitting about a 270 as well. So I do think that for the Blue Jays, they do a nice job getting to Eflin, and I do think that they find a way to get the job done in this ordeal. Set them at a minus 135. I do like the Blue Jays on the money line, and you're at a 9.5. I think the Bassett gives you a good performance. I like the under, set my total at 8.9. 963, 964 on the card. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road against the New York Yankees. Cam Schlittler is on the bump for the Yankees, and Drew Rasmussen is on the bump for the Rays, and the Rays do find themselves as a slim underdog between minus 102 to a plus 104, and between minus 110 to a minus 119 is that number on the Yankees. 8.5 is the total. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And when it comes to the Yankees, I did set them on the money line at a minus 126, so I'm going to be willing to lay the number for Schlittler. It's been up, down, all around for him as he has been really doing a little bit of spot starting for the New York Yankees. He began his season at the minor league level. This is going to be start number 3 for him, and his 2 starts at the big league level has shown off the good swing and miss stuff. 10 strikeouts in 10 and a third innings. He's given up a pair of bombs and 5 walks thus far, so I won't call it amazing. I won't necessarily call it terrible, but if you look at his AAA numbers thus far this season, posting up a 2.82 ERA, 1.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, gave up just a half home run per 9, and he's gone up against some relatively good competition in his first few starts. For Schluttler, his first few starts came against the Seattle Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays, so you know what he's facing off against teams that are not schlubs. And for Drew Rasmussen, he has been a very steady Eddie guy. Not necessarily going to give you a bunch of strikeouts or anything like that, but 293 ERA. That fielding depends more around a 358 with 0.9 home runs, 2.2 walks allowed per 9 innings. He's only getting about 7.7 punch-outs per 9, and he's given up 2 runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts. And as we know, for the New York Yankees, a little bit of a crippled lineup. When you don't have a guy by the name of Aaron Judge out there, that does make things a little bit more difficult, but so you've got a lot of guys that'll be able to give this team a double-figure amount of homers, as you've got likes of Anthony Volpe, Austin Wells, Cody Bellinger, Jazz Chisholm, Trent Grisham, Ben Rice, all between 14 and 19 home runs thus far this season. Now, it appears as though Volpe might be getting replaced a little bit with Ryan McMahon coming in. They've also brought in Ahmed Rosario, so that's going to be able to help out the infield. We'll see if the Yankees have another move up their sleeve, but Giancarlo Stanton, though he doesn't run the bases well, 7 home runs and 98 at-bats, give you a 355 on base, so I do think that the Yankees offense is going to be fine, especially with Jazz Chisholm being able to pick it up with regards to his on-base percentage. And now for the New York Yankees, the big question is bullpen. Luke Weaver has not looked like himself since coming off the injured list. He and Tim Miller are really your main 2 guys with a sub-3 ERA. They've been relying upon the likes of JT Brubaker, Mark Leiter Jr., Ian Hamilton, Devin Williams, all these guys that right now supplying you with at least a 3.45 ERA. Jonathan Loaiza has been a little bit of an issue as well, and for the Tampa Bay Rays, this is a top 10 unit in terms of their bullpen ERAs. You've got a lot of top guys that will be able to give you an ERA below 3. Garrett Clevenger, Eric Orze, Pete Fairbanks, Manuel Rodriguez have been solid, and for the Rays, overall for the season, hovering right around 10th in terms of runs per game, but Brandon Lyle lands on the injured list. That's hurting them. He's number 2 on the team with 19 home runs, hitting about a 270. Junior Caminero continues to be great, 26 home runs, really doesn't draw a lot of walks, but he hits a deep ball, and Yandy Diaz has been incredible, 345 on base, 18 home runs. This team does a nice job of moving line. Jake Mangum is hitting at 295, Chandler Simpson a 307, and between Chandler Simpson and Jose Calabrillo, both have 32 plus stolen bases this season, though the catcher spot has been providing some issues as well. I do think that in the end, the Yankees do just enough to be able to get to Drew Rasmussen and get the job done. I think that Cam Schluttler has himself a nice runway to become a nice MLB pitcher. I did sell my total here at an 8.3, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the under and the Yankees on the money line. 965, 966 on the card. The Boston Red Sox are on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Simeon Woods Richardson is on the bump for the Twins. Richard Fitz is on the bump for Boston. And Boston is a underdog of anywhere between plus 104 to a plus 109. And between minus 118 to a minus 126 is the number on Minnesota. 9.5 is the total. The under is minus 115 and the over is minus 105. And for the Red Sox, I did set them at a plus 133, so I'm going to be willing to lay with the Twins. For Fitz, he's been giving up 2.4 home runs per 9, and he's very much a pitcher contact guy. I will say he's given up 3 runs or fewer in 3 out of his last 4 starts. As a matter of fact, 2 runs or fewer if you look at earned runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts, but he had 3 of those starts be 4 innings or fewer, so he's not been able to deliver a lot of length. That's not necessarily the worst thing, though, because for the Boston Red Sox, they are a top 5 unit in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've had a lot of guys do a nice job of holding it down. Obviously, Aroldis Chapman, the closer, has been incredible. A sub 150 ERA, he's getting over 13 strikeouts per 9 innings. You did have to use up Greg Weiser yesterday, but he, Brendan Bernardino, Garrett Whitlock are all guys give you below a 325 ERA. You've had Justin Slayton when he's been out there be relatively solid. He had to land on the injured list, but Jordan Hicks is all of a sudden finding a new home with this team as well. Got the save yesterday, and for the Red Sox, this is a top 8 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game, even without Rafael Devers in the fold, as you've had Trevor Story, Ceddanne Rafaela combined for 29 home runs. For Story, still not a great on base, but he's been better recently, and then for Rafaela, saying about a 265, you've been able to get just these platoon ancillary guys to be able to get on base. Rob Brevsnyder, Abraham Toro, Rami Gonzalez, all getting at least a 269. Alex Bregman is back with his 375 on base. He does a great job of being able to hit the deep ball. Carlos Cervantes is moving the line, so really like what these guys are showing, along with Weiler Abreu, Weiland out for 20 home runs this season. And then for the Minnesota Twins, Simeon Woods Richardson, 3 runs or fewer allowed at each out of his last 7 starts. Overall for the season, 4.14 ERA, closer to about a 4.67 field dependent, giving up 1.3 home runs and 3.9 walks per 9 innings. And he is backed up by a bullpen that overall since the beginning of the month of June has been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of ERA. This despite the fact that you've got Louis Varland along with Yohan Duran, Danny Kalum, all supplying a sub 225 ERA. Brock and Roll Stewart has been able to give you a sub 250 ERA as well, but the long guys have been absolutely awful for the team. Cole Sands, Justin Topa and company, Griffin Jacks, looking at you, they have not been incredible. And for the Twins, it's a ho-hum lineup outside of Byron Buxton. Buxton, 23 bombs, 343 on base. He has been magnificent. And then you've got essentially like 4 different guys between 12 and 13 home runs. Trevor Larnach, Matt Wallner, Harrison Bader, Cody Clemens. And in the case of Cody Clemens, along with Matt Wallner, both of these guys hitting a 225 or lower, so not necessarily moving the line there. Like what I've been seeing recently out of Royce Lewis since he came off the injured list. The first time he came off the injured list was absolutely awful. He's starting to give you a little bit more there, but you've had Ty France be a little bit up and down, about a 325 on base. He's been relatively okay, but I do think that for Fitz, he gives up some runs here, but really like the way that Woods Richardson is rolling, and I'm willing to trust in him in this spot. So I did set the Minnesota Twins on the money line at a minus 133. I'm willing to lay it in. Maybe I total in 8.8, so here at the 9.5, I'm in on the under. 967, 968 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers are on the road against the LA Angels. One, Jacob deGrom is on the bump for the Rangers. Old to be determined is on the bump for the Angels. So this is a game that's presently off the board. CBS Sports was projecting Jack Kotchanowicz in a bulk role for the Angels, so I have went with this with regards to my handicap. If it turns out to be a full-on bullpen game for the Angels, going to be relatively the same, but for the Rangers, I did set them on the money line at a minus 179. I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 110 on that run line, with the Angels need at least a plus 180 to be able to take a shot on them, and then set a total of an 8.2, 8 or less in on the over, 8.5 or higher the under. For Kotchanowicz, it's just been absolutely awful this year. How about a 6.03 ERA, 5.55 fielding dependent, giving up 1.5 home runs and 4.3 walks per 9 innings, all while only getting 6.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. We last saw him on a big league bump about 2.5 weeks ago against this very Rangers team, and he gave up 8 runs and he got 8 outs. So it is not going well for our guy in Kotchanowicz. 3 strikeouts or fewer each out of his last 4 starts, and for Jacob deGrom, he has been absolutely masterful this season. Last time he gave up more than 3 earned runs at a start, you have to go all the way back to the middle of April. As for Jacob deGrom, 2.28 ERA. Feeling bet is a little bit higher than that, as he's only getting about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's a little bit down from his standards, but I mean, he had a few starts towards the beginning part of the season that were a little bit rough, but since April 4th, has not given up more than 3 earned runs in a start. Just an absolutely remarkable run. So 18 straight starts there, and in 16 of those starts, he has given up 2 runs or fewer. He is also backed up by a bullpen that is currently number 1 in the big leagues in terms of ERA since the beginning of the month of June, as you've had so many guys just be able to mix and match, like Robert Garcia, even someone like a Cole Winn has been able to come in and give you some good innings. You've been getting good production out of Luke Jackson when he's been out there. So these guys have all been able to do a nice job holding down the fort for this bullpen, and then you've got a lineup that is averaging about 5.9 runs per game since the beginning of the month of July. These guys have all been able to come alive, as you've gotten really good production out of Corey Seager over the last 35 days for a north of 400 on base. Josh Smith has been able to give you about a 350 on base. You still have these guys overall for the season, like Adolis Garcia, Jake Berger, Marcus Semien, give you between 11 and 14 home runs, and they're hitting between about a 220 to 230, but they've been much better here recently. Kyle Higashioka has been hitting well above a 300 ever since the beginning of the month of July as well. And then you've got a bunch for the LA Angels that, I mean, they hit bombs. This is a top 5 team in the big leagues in terms of home runs out of per at-bat basis. Also a bottom 5 team in terms of on-base percentage at home. Zach Neto has been really one of the main guys to be able to give you some on-base. He's been hitting at 275. He's supplying 15 home runs. Mike Trout, he's not hitting for the world's greatest averages here, actually. He's been hitting right around about a 237, but he's up to 19 home runs. Taylor Ward, 23 bombs. He's up to now about a 309 on base. Joe Adell is starting to sink with his on base percentage, but you saw the home run robbery that he had yesterday. Pretty darn solid, as he, along with Logan O'Hoppe, 18 plus home runs apiece, but O'Hoppe about a 280 on base as well. And for this Angels bullpen, bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of ERA, you've got Kenley Jansen and Brock and Roll Burke, who have been able to give you a sub 340 ERA, but I mean, really, outside of that, you don't have a lot of trustworthy guys. They had to utilize Reed Detmers yesterday. His ERA is about a 4, and then the likes of a Ryan Zephyr, whenever he's been out there, Hector Neris is, I'm pretty sure that they had to DFA him, and so many others have been posting up an ERA that is well above a 4. You just have not been able to get too much out of Jose Fermin and company, so I do think that this is going to be a bit of a rough one for the LA Angels. So I did set a total to where an 8 or less. I'm in on the over, 8.5 or higher, the under. Want to go up to a minus 110 on that Rangers run line. Would need at least a plus 180 980 to take a shot on the Angels. 969, 970 on the card. It is the Seattle Mariners on the road against the Athletics as JP Sears is on the bump for the A's and Luis Castillo goes for Seattle. And Seattle does find themselves as a mid-sized favorite, anywhere between minus 125 to a minus 132, and then between plus 108 to a plus 115 is that number on the Athletics, and the total is between 9.5 and 10 on the 9.5. Over is minus 120, the under is even, and on the 10, the under is minus 120, and the over is even. And for Seattle, did set them at a minus 137 on the money line. I'm willing to lay the minus 125. For Luis Castillo, he's actually way down with his strikeout numbers as he has been getting only 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. That is by far a career low. And for Luis Castillo, his home and road splits are very vast, as overall for the season a 3.30 ERA, which is solid, but that shoots up to a 4.74 ERA when he's at away from home. Now, he is giving up less than 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, so has been pretty darn solid there. And then for JP Sears, man, he has given up the deep ball in Sacramento. How about 2.6 home runs per 9 innings in Sacramento, rocking a 5.61 ERA, and he's backed up by a bullpen that is 29th in the big leagues with a 5.38 ERA. Mason Miller, congratulations, back down to about a 4 ERA, so he's been solid. And then you've got Michael Kelly, who's been able to do a nice job out of this bullpen along Sean Newcomb. Both of these guys below a 3.50 ERA, and Jack Perkins has been a good long guy as well, but had to utilize him yesterday, so he's not going to be able to pull some sort of a back-to-back. You've got the likes of Inez Valdovido, Hogan Harris, Justin Sterner, guys like this posting up above a 4 ERA. And for the Athletics, it's a pretty league average lineup, though Nick Kurtz has really been able to breathe some life into it. I mean, that 4 home run game over the weekend was amazing, 23 bombs, hitting above a 300, so I mean, he has been incredible. And then Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, a combined 40 home runs. Soderstrom at 330 on base, closer to 350 for Rooker. You've had Lawrence Butler, not necessarily give you a ton in terms of average, but 15 home runs and 17 stolen bases. You'll take that. And Shea has banged. Shea Langoliers, 17 home runs. He's up to hitting about a 250. And for Seattle, big dumper Cal Raleigh, now 41 home runs. He's got a chance to be able to set the American League record for home runs in a season. He has been performing that well. He and JP Crawford both give you an on-base percentage as above a 360. You've been able to have Ben Williamson be able to move the line. He's not giving you any sort of power whatsoever, but that's why you've got Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena, and Ori Polanco. These 3 guys, they combine 54 home runs, and Arozarena, 8+ home runs over the last 30 days. He has been on fire. He's up to about a 350 on base, and I do think that for Seattle, you're going to be able to get some good bullpen pitching from the top guys. Andres Munoz, Matt Brash, Gabe Spire. These guys have been able to spy a sub-275 ERA. Edward Bizardo has been able to as well, as long as he can avoid the likes of Trent Thornton and company. Should be feeling pretty good about this bullpen. And for the Mariners, I do think that they take it to JP Sears. Semi-total 10.1, so I do like the over, and I am going to be willing to ride with the Mariners on the money line. We'll go to a minus 137, 971, 972 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks hit the road to face off against the Detroit Tigers as Troy Milton is on the bump for the Tigres, and Eduardo Rodriguez goes for Arizona. 9 is the total, under is minus 120, the over is even, minus 121 to minus 132, that number on the Tigres, and you've got plus 108 to plus 113 currently on Arizona, and I'm going to be willing to lay it with the Tigers. Set them at a minus 126. Recognize that Melton in his first career start, he went 5 innings and gave up 6 runs, including 2 bombs, so that was not necessarily too amazing. That said, I do think that there's quite a bit of upside with him. If you look at what he did at the minor league level, was posting up an ERA of 2.99, over 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, really wasn't giving up the deep ball, so that's what you like to see. And for Eduardo Rodriguez, since he came off the injury list, he's been a whole heck of a lot better than he was towards the beginning part of the season. Now he had those 2 starts against the Padres and the Kansas City Royals where he just got completely shocked. I mean, man, he gave up 13 runs, 12 which were earned in those 2 starts, but still, you take a look at overall, he's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 6 out of his last 8 starts, a 5.50 ERA, but he's generating swings and misses. He's getting 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. If you only pay him more around a 4.48, so there's some positivity to do there. And for the Arizona Diamondbacks, this is a lineup that all of a sudden is a little bit more crippled with the fact that Josh Naylor got traded away a few days ago. Salvan Eugenio Suarez, he has not been traded. He should be out there for Monday. 37 plus home runs, hitting about a 250. Now, Corbin Carroll's not been the same since coming off the injury list. Overall for the season, 21 bombs, hitting for about a 245, but has been hitting below 200 since coming off the injury list. James McCann has actually been a really nice find at the catcher spot, hitting above a 300, and then Geraldo Perdomo's giving you 375 on base. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, over a 400 on base. He's flying a home run every about 13 or so at bat, so I mean, you've got a lot of guys that are producing for this team, but what is not producing for the Arizona Diamondbacks is his bullpen, as they're currently a bottom 5 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. Just not a lot of guys giving you good performances. Andrew yourself, Frank, coming back should be able to help out this bullpen. But I mean, Shelby Miller was your lone guy that was really consistently giving you a sub-4 ERA, and he's on the injured list. Kyle Backus in a small sample size has been relatively okay, but likes of Jalen Beeks, Jake Woodford, Bryce Jarvis, you just go down the list of guys. They're not doing a great job. Juan Murillo, all these guys give you above a 4 ERA is less than savory, and for the Tigers' bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA since the beginning of the month of June, as you've had Tommy Kahnle fall straight down the toilet bowl. Above a 4 ERA for him, same with Chase Lee. Tyler Holton has been hit or miss all season long, though. You do have Brendan Ennefe, Brian Herter, Will Vest. These three guys have been able to do a pretty solid job, giving you a sub 3.25 ERA. And for the Detroit Tigers, the offense was slow going coming out of the All-Star break, but it seems like they've been able to find their seed legs. Spencer Torkelson is up to 23 home runs. He and Riley Green have been your main power hitters, with Green 25 home runs. Green's hitting at 275, more like a 237 for Torkelson, but Torkelson has the better on base at a 333, and then a bunch of guys in between. We're going to call it a 266 to a 276. Dylan Dingler, Gleyber Torres, Zach McKinstry, Javi Baez, and then you've had Cole Keith be able to give you about a 335 on base. So I do think that the Tigers find it a little bit more here against Rodriguez. So I did think that Rodriguez gives you a relatively solid start. So I did set my total at an 8.7. I like the under for the Tigers. We'll go up to a minus 125 on that money line. 973, 974 on the card. The Rockies hit the road to face off against the Cleveland Guardians. Slade Sassoni goes for the Guardians, and Bradley Blaylock is on the bump for the Rockies. Right now, that run line price for Cleveland is between minus 120 to a minus 115. The money line price is more around minus 235 to a minus 240, plus $2 to plus 210. That number on Colorado, with 9 being the total. Under is minus 120, and the over is even. And I'm willing to rock with the under. I did set my total at an 8.2. As for Slade Sassoni, he's been very good recently. 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in 6 out of his last 8 starts. 3 runs or fewer in all but one of those as well. So he's gone out there and he's been able to hold down the fort. And for Sassoni, the swing and miss stuff is pretty solid. About 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. He gave up a lot of home runs earlier in the season, 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and he has given up 5 home runs over the course of his last 4 starts, many of them coming at home. But the good news is you get to go up against the Colorado Rockies team that's averaging 3 runs per game, second worst in all of baseball. And it's not like they got upgraded, because they now trade away Ryan McMahon. They're probably going to have a few other pieces that are going to be leaving town relatively soon. And for the Colorado Rockies, other than Hunter Goodman, this has been a pretty atrocious lineup. Hunter Goodman has been great. Overall for the season, he's hitting above a 280, and he's got 12 home runs on the road. Nobody else on the roster has more than 6. Jordan Beck and Mickey Moniak being both of them, and they're both hitting right around about a 220 to a 225 when they're away from home. Just not a lot of guys are moving the line when they're away from home. Theo Estrada has been able to hit above a 300 away from home, so shout out to him, and he's pretty much the lone guy other than Tyler Freeman with above 25 at-bats as far as the season that has above a 331 on base percentage away from him. And then other than Hunter Goodman, you'd really have nobody else with above a 295 on base away from home. Like, all these guys have really struggled when they've been away from home. Adele Amador and company have been absolutely terrible, and this is a bullpen that is starting to fall down the toilet bowl. As for the Colorado Rockies, you've been able to have Jimmy Erged along with Victor Vodnik supply an ERA below a 3, and then Jake Bird is up to about a 4 ERA, and then just a cavalcade of different guys like Scott Alexander whenever he's been out there, Tyler Kinley, Seth Alverson, all these guys above a 4.75 ERA. Now for the Cleveland Guardians, he did have Emmanuel Clase blow a save in that double dip against the Royals a few days ago, but overall he's been much better. His ERA is back down below a 3.25. You've had Kate Smith, Eric Sabrowski be able to supply good innings with below a 3.05 ERA. Now the issue has been the likes of a Tim Herron, who's been an issue all season long, and he's back on the injured list. Paul Sewald and Matthew Fessa have both been big issues. Sewald is back on the injured list, and Matthew Fessa is rocking nearly a 5 ERA, but that said, it is a Cleveland Guardians lineup that has good guys at the top in terms of Jose Ramirez along with Stephen Kwan. Both of these guys hitting for north of a 350 on base, and Ramirez up to 21 home runs, but not a lot of guys outside that are really moving the line and getting on base. You just have so many guys hitting below a 220 right now. Daniel Sheeman, Bo Naylor, Will Wilson, David Fry, Jonathan Rodriguez, John Kenzie Noel. Man, I mean, there's just so many. Though Kyle Manzardo is up to 16 home runs, he's now back above a 300 on base, so that's a little bit more encouraging for this unit. That said, I do think that this is going to be a lower scoring slog, even with Bradley Blaylock having an ERA that is above an 8. His ERA is an 8.67. He had just one start where he gave up 12 earned runs, and that was at home. If you look at what he's done on the road, he honestly has not been terrible. He's given you a 4.50 ERA, and I'm not saying that Blaylock is going to be the Mona Lisa Vito pitching, but he is going up against a Guardians team that is third worst in the big leagues in terms of runs per game at home. home. He has given up a combined 3 earned runs in his last 2 starts against the Reds and the St. Louis Cardinals, and he's getting 3 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's won 27 innings. He has allowed 7 walks. He's got 9 strikeouts, and he's given up 6 homers. Just an absolutely hilarious line right there. But that said, I'm going to be willing to roll with the under. And for the Guardians, I'm willing to go up to a minus 128 with this run line. 975, 976 on the card. The Philadelphia Phillies are on the road against the Chicago White Sox as Christopher Sanchez is on the bump for the Phillies, and Davis Martin for the Southsiders. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. The Phillies are between minus 210 to minus 220 favorites, and between plus 178 to a plus 195, that number on the White Sox. Willing to go up to a plus 183 or higher with the White Sox, so seeing a plus 185, I'm going to be willing to roll with that. For Davis Martin, he has been able to do a really nice job in terms of not giving out a lot of walks, albeit he is giving up a little bit too much hard contact. For Martin, 3.89 ERA compared to a 4.55 fielding independent, 6 strikeouts and 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but he's been relatively solid when he has been at home this season. Many of his issues have come away from home. As we know, the wind situation in Chicago can always impact things, but 3.02 ERA for Mr. Davis Martin when he's been at home. Again, not a strikeout artist, but he's doing a nice job just merely holding down the fort. And then for Christopher Sanchez, he has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in every one of his starts since the beginning of the month of June. 9 total starts. He has been absolutely amazing for this team. Overall for the season, a 2.40 ERA. He's getting 9.7 strikeouts and 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. Now he's backed up by a bullpen that has been rough to say the least. You've got a Ryan Kerkering with a sub-3 ERA, and Matt Strahm, after he had a really rough June, he's been able to bounce back a little bit more. His ERA is more around about a 3. Max Laser has been able to give you some good innings. And for the Phillies, since the beginning of the month of June, they are 13th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, and that's not too bad. And the White Sox have been able to rise up with their bullpen as well. White Sox are 11th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA since the beginning of the month of June. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, you've had Jordan Romano really poop the bed for them. And for the Chicago White Sox, you similarly have had quite a few relievers that just have not been great for this team, to say the least. Whenever Cam Boucher, Jordan Leisure have been out there, above a 4.75 ERA out of them. You've been able to get some relatively solid innings recently out of Tyler Gilbert. He's down below about a 3 ERA. And then you've had Dan Altavilla, Steven Wilson be able to give you an ERA of a 3 or better. But it's been a big giant mess there. And for the White Sox, they're a bottom 5 team in the big leagues in terms of runs per game. Just not a lot of power here. Andrew Benintendi leading the way in homers with 13 with a 307 on base. And then Luis Robert and Miguel Vargas combined 22 home runs, but both are hitting at 227 or lower, with Robert hitting at 204, and that's just a big issue. Now you've got for the White Sox, you do have a few guys that reach base. Kyle Teal, Edgar Chiara, both hitting about at 275 at the catcher spot. The catcher spot has actually really produced for the team, and nobody else has, so go figure there, because you've just got so many guys on this roster hitting below 220 right now. Michael A. Taylor, Brooks Baldwin, Robert, Joshua Palacios, Josh Rojas, Tim Elko. Whenever he's been up there, they sent him back down to the minors. Just not great, to say the least. But that said, I do think that this number has gone a little bit too high with the Phillies team, that they're about 16th in the big leagues in terms of runs per game themselves when they're away from home. They're averaging nearly a full run per game less on the road rather than at home. Kyle Schwarber's been amazing with his 36 home runs. And Bryce Harper, 15 home runs, and ever since coming off the injured list, he's been able to do a very rock solid job of just being able to restore what was missing for the team. As since coming off the injured list, 395 on base, 6 home runs, and 73 at bats, so you do like to see that. And then you do have quite a few guys that are pounding between 11 and 14 home runs. Max Kepler is hitting for no average whatsoever. Nick Castellanos, Trey Turner, 25 stolen bases, hitting at 295, and JT Realmuto hitting well above a 325 over the last 35 days. He's been solid as well, but that said, I do think that this number has just gone up a little bit too high. What I think is going to be a low-scoring slog, so my total 7.8. I like the under, and I do like the money line here of the White Sox at a plus 183 or higher, 977, 978 on the card. The Braves are on the road against the Kansas City Royals. Rich Hill, the 45-year-old Rich Hill, is on the bump for the Royals, and Spencer Strider goes for Atlanta. Atlanta is a favorite of between minus 163 to a minus 172, plus 140 to plus 155. That number on the Royals, 9.5 is the total, over and under, both at minus 110. And if you're looking to lay the run line of the Atlanta Braves, you're buying that at a minus 110. And for the Braves, I was willing to go up to a minus 103 with this run line. If we could get down to like a minus 160, I honestly will take a shot on the money line. I'm starting to see a minus 160. I know it sounds ridiculous because the Braves are 16 games below 500. That's my lack of faith in Rich Hill, though. Rich Hill was last a starter in the 2023 season. He posted up a 5.41 ERA. Now he's just an aging guy that in his first start against the Cubs, he gave up 3 runs in 5 innings, only one of which was earned, but he got 1 strikeout in that start. He does not look like he has it anymore. I think it's going to be rough for him. Now, for the Atlanta Braves, it's been all sorts of rough for them this season. They are a bottom 10 team in terms of runs per game, but You still do have star power in this lineup. Ron Acuna Jr., he's been able to supply the team with 13 home runs and over a 400 on base. Sean Murphy and Matt Olson a combined 34 home runs. Murphy's only hitting about a 233, but Olson has been able to provide you about a 370 on base. Marcell Ozuna, 360 on base with 13 home runs. The big issue for this team, Michael Harris has been terrible. He had a nice game over the weekend, but 5 home runs at a 253 on base is just simply not cutting it. You've had Ozzy Albies hit for a 294 on base, single-digit amount of bombs out of him as well, so you've got a lot of guys that have had issues. Nick Allen, 0 home runs as far this season and hitting at 227. And then for the Braves, the bullpen has went straight down the toilet bowl with Raciel Iglesias being one of the worst closers in all of baseball right now. As a matter of fact, for the Braves, 21st in terms of bullpen ERA since June 1st, and Daniel De Los Santos has not given you good innings. He's posting up over a 4 ERA. Desmond Hernandez, for some reason, is not with a big league team. I have no idea why. Pierce Johnson and Dylan Lee, though, a sub 275 ERA. And for the Royals, this has been a pretty rock-solid bullpen with Lucas Erceg, Carlos Aceves, both giving you a sub 3 ERA. Steven Cruz has been able to do so as well. This Royals team is number 8 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, with John Schreiber being able to give you some good innings. They have a deal with the injury to Daniel Lynch. That's been a little bit unfortunate, but all of a sudden for the Royals, they've been more of a respectable lineup here in the month of July. They're still averaging only 3 runs per game at home, though. That's dead last in all baseball. Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez, all between 15 and 18 home runs. And Perez all of a sudden hitting at 250. He has been amazing here in the month of July. 9+ bombs here in this month. Pasquantino, 325 on base. Bobby Witt Jr., 27 stolen bases, hitting about a 290. And under the radar, Miguel Garcia has been able to give you about a 350 on base, but you've got a lot of guys who are in between about a 242, 252, like Jonathan India, Drew Waters, Kyle Isbell, and they're all providing 5 home runs or fewer, just not a lot of production there. And then likes of John Ray, Jack Caglione, Nick Lofton, hitting below a 220 with no power has been an issue as well. So it's an interesting circumstance here. I did semi-total at an 8.2 because with Spencer Strider, he has given up 300 runs or fewer, and I believe all but one of his last 8 starts, he's actually been able to do so in each out of his last 9. So, I mean, he's been much better recently. He's back up to getting you over 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Still does give up over 3 walks per 9 innings, but he's rounded back into form, 372 ERA overall, but he's performing much better than that. So, at a minus 160, I honestly will be willing to take a shot on that Braves money line, and I like the under semi-total at 8.2. We wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Nationals are on the road facing off against the Houston Astros. Framber Valdez is on the bump for the Astros. Brad Lord says, oh Lord, he's getting another start for the Nationals, and the Nationals are very sizable underdogs. You're going to be getting them between a plus 195 to a plus 205, and between minus 220 to minus 235 is that number on Houston. If you're looking to lay a run at, by the way, with the Astros, you're going to be laying about a minus 105 to a minus 110, and total 7.5 over is minus 115. The under is minus 105, and I did back the Astros on the run line. I set them at a minus 118 on that run line. As for Houston, they've been able to do a relatively solid job of getting Framber Valdez going. 267 ERA, 2 runs or fewer allowed in 9 out of his last 10 starts. Now, he does have to face off against the Washington Nationals lineup that's averaging about 4.7 runs per game away from home. That is a top 10 mark in all of baseball for the Nationals. You just have a lot of guys that have been able to supply offense when they've been away from home rather than at home. You only have 2 guys on the roster with more than 2 home runs that are fully healthy, with currently having Dylan Cruz on the injured list with above 2 home runs at home thus far this season. Nathaniel Lowe has been able to pound out 15 home runs. He's only hitting at 225 though. And CJ Abrams, he's got 14 home runs, 11 have come on the road, sitting at 275. James Wood has been the constant for this team, 367 on base, 24 bombs. Josh Bell is up to 13 home runs. He's actually been hitting in the month of July well above a 300, so a little bit of a shout out there. Alex Call gives you some good on base, 377 on base, but not a lot of power. Here's what is power list for the Nationals. This bullpen, dead last in the big leagues in terms of ERA. Brad Lord has been utilized as both a bullpen piece and a starter, and for Brad Lord, he's been a really good reliever coming out of the bullpen. He's got an ERA that is below a 3, but that ERA shoots up to a 4.15 when he is a starter, and for this Astros team, I recognize that they had a less than savory series against the Athletics, as in that series, they got swept and they didn't generate a lot of offense, but Isaac Paredes, 19 home runs, give you a 360 on base. He's been solid. Jose Altuve is sitting at 280 with 17 home runs. You've got Yanier Diaz and Christian Walker needing to give you more on base, both below a 300 on base, but both do give you 13 home runs. Victor Carantini has been able to give you some nice offense. Jake Myers is sitting above 300, though he's been dealing with a little bit of injury throughout the season. And you got Cam Smith, who's been a little bit up and down, but he's up to about a 330 on base. And this is an Astros bullpen that ranks in the top 6 in all baseball in terms of bullpen ERA. You got the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Sean Dubin when he's been out there. You throw in there Josh Hader, the closer, Bennett Sosa, Stephen Okert, all below a 305 ERA. And I do think that the Astros take it to the Washington Nationals Nationals here. I'm willing to lay up to a -118 with that Astros run line, and I'm in on the over, semi-total at 8.3, and that'll wrap things up for the Monday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. A big thanks to Dylan Rockford of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways to be able to throw those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like here on this podcast via that 5-star review. And I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, so I'm back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.